I have never felt so absolutely deflated. And I learned a really big lesson that day, and that is I'm feeling dramatic today. And that is good news for you because I'm probably going to say something on the internet that I'm going to regret later, but you're going to enjoy it. Welcome back to the Julie Story podcast / YouTube. I'm actually thinking of changing the name and calling this podcast Funny Story. So sound off in the comments if you're loving that or not. Just because I feel like if you've never seen me before, you might not know what the Julie Story podcast is. Okay? And this is the place where we make fun of things because life is lifing too hard, and so we're going to find ways to make it ridiculous. And I'm going to make characters and personify objects and also talk about deep things because life is life so hard that we've collected like infinity stones along the way that are valuable. And so we're going to do a little swap, like a pin swap here. And it's going to be relatable and it's going to be ridiculous. That's what you're going to get here. But it's also going to be resilient because the only reason I'm funny is because I have gone through it. And so if you're going through it, you're not alone. And hopefully this helps you feel less alone in your journey. And that is like my heart and soul of putting out so much on the internet is like, please don't feel alone. I know what it's like to go through things alone. And to see girlies showing up in my life in the middle of my worst moments where I was desperate just to have someone say, I don't have it all together, but I'm still showing up trying. And they would not. They would just show up and be like, oh my God, I have this completely figured out. I literally have never struggled in my life. And I was over there, like, literally struggling with tweezers. Like 3 seconds earlier, like I was crashing out over like trying to get the last like tablespoon of peanut butter out of the jar, and they're just like, oh my God, I've never crashed out in my life, and I'm like, I cannot, I need you to be real. So that's what I'm gonna be here, and hopefully you feel less alone in your journey. But today I'm talking about being the girl that was never chosen, and so I had to make my own table. And I wish that I was just saying that, and I wish I was just being dramatic. I wish I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to say I was never chosen, but I really, really was the chosen girl. No, I wasn't. So we're going to go and dive deep. But one of the things that I have been struggling with in creating this space where we can have these conversations is there are two, I feel like, opposite sides of my personality that I'm trying to make sense of. How do we do a comedic, funny conversation together, because everything that I think is just ridiculous and it's just like a constant monologue of objects talking to me, and then also share the depth of what it is like to survive like what it is like to crawl your way out of the darkest hole, because the reason that I'm ridiculous and funny is because that was my survival mechanism to the suffering that I endured. And it feels like I've got two siblings that hate each other that I'm forcing to sit in a room, and they're fighting over clothing, and they're pulling the comforter away from each other, and I'm like, I'm going to put you in a get-along shirt, and we're going to do a podcast, and we're going to do a YouTube, and it's going to make sense. So that's what we're doing here. But in being the girl that was never chosen, it means I have to dive deep into the stories of my life that I have experienced so much rejection, and that has, like, put on a pair of glasses, and these glasses have lenses, y'all. I know you've seen me in non-lenses glasses, but the rejection glasses, man, they're thick. They're thick and uncomfortable. And I feel like rejection she is a different energy than the other emotions. And I personify my emotions as well. I know this is shocking to you, but imagine like my emotions are all sitting at a round table, and this is how I talk about them. They're all sitting at a round table and they're at a board meeting, and I'm the CEO trying to get them all to get along and trying to understand who's talking. And sometimes different emotions dress up as each other and like cosplay as each other. So like all of a sudden I'm seeing anger, but then a second later I'm like, oh, jealousy, you're cosplaying as anger. Okay, well, great, thank you for making this like a freaking escape room in my brain where I have to figure out who's talking. And then half the time the conversation that's actually being had is by little me, who has somehow shown up and is now the CEO, and I have to like evict her from the front of the table with deep breaths and therapeutic skills so that I can come back and like lead us here. But man, rejection, gosh, she's linked arms with grief. And that duo is a nightmare. Like it is like it's like somebody gave them a credit card, let them go into Hot Topic, and just they came out with not only some choker necklaces, but also trauma. Trauma. I love Hot Topic though. Hot Topic is so cute, but just like get the visual of like the emo girlies that are screaming, "It's not a phase, mom." That, but I feel like maybe a little bit more grown up. Like I'll think about their outfits a little bit more. But yeah, I give them visuals because I feel like everything is so like confusing in terms of how they show up, how they're operating, how they're trying to run things. And I feel like as soon as I can visualize them, I immediately get mad, like more mad, like, but me mad, not like anger mad as jealousy, but like mad of like, you're not gonna run this anymore. Like, you are completely ridiculous. Like, you are having tantrums over something that we do not need to bring into this conversation anymore. And I'm also working through, understanding those tantrums means that there's a part of me that still needs to be validated in those things. So, what first comes to mind for me of the times that I did not get picked was in my career. I used to be a graphic designer, and I was a graphic designer for photographers, and I had built my business from nothing. Like, I want you to imagine single mom, has nothing, doesn't have it doesn't have anything like other than an associate graphic design degree from a community college. Like, I literally was at the lowest point in my life, and I had built a business that was providing for my kids, and I did it. Like, it took me 18 months of working 7 days a week, like as often as my kids were not awake. Whenever my kids were awake, I did not work. Like, my priority was my kids. And so I was like, I'm not going to work unless they're sleeping. So I want you to imagine like me, like hunched over in front of the computer. It's 1 a.m. Like, just my eyes are so puffy, but I'm just like, I have to make this happen. Like, I'm going to make a life that I'm really proud of. And so I did it. And I built a business that was thriving, that had like a client wait list, and my clients, oh my gosh, the most amazing people ever. I got the opportunity to get to know amazing people, and they invited me into their world, and allowed me the absolute privilege of sitting with them and getting to know, what made them want to be a photographer. And it was just such an honor for me to get to know their hearts in that way, and to get to know their dreams and desires and their goals, and help them achieve what they wanted to for their families. And so sitting with these women, having these deep soul conversations and doing that for so long, I was so proud of what I built. And I just remember being a part of these larger communities, and there were always conferences being hosted, and always speakers being invited to speak. And I never got an invite to be a speaker. And I felt like, oh my God, like, what do I have to do? Like, what else do I have to do? Like, I built a business from nothing. Like, I have, these credentials. I've got, hundreds of happy clients, and I just was never picked. And I always felt like I just wasn't worthy to be picked. I felt like, it didn't matter my successes. It didn't matter how great of a mom I was, or how great of a business owner I was, or what my core values were, or how I showed up even in the community. I was very active in the community. I was constantly trying to give and be just encouragement. Like, I had this habit in my day where I wanted to start every single day by encouraging other people. Like, that's how I wanted my day to start. It was like my hot girl walk, but my hot girl like encouragement. And so every day I would pick 5 people, and I would just go over to their Facebook and DM them, and just be like, hey, like, I want, whatever it was, like, I would take a second to like look at their website or whatever it is that they were doing. And I just genuinely sat with them for a second, and I just wanted to let them know that I saw them, and that I was, really impressed by whatever it was they're doing. So I just took that time just to be genuine and loving and kind. And so that's who I was in the community. And to feel like I was always just kind of like putting up my hand, like, hey, like, pick me, like, I could do it. And I also felt like, although I didn't feel like I necessarily was like, oh my God, I'm the best, that's why I should be picked. Like, I just felt like I could see myself, and I could see where I could give value, and I could see how I could bring something to the community. And to not be seen in that way felt like rejection and grief just linked arms with me, and they definitely had something to say about that, and they definitely reminded me about my past moments of even just being a child, and never having the cute boy that I like me back, and they reminded me of this like invisible string in my whole life of like every time I wasn't picked, then in these moments where I really would have loved it and it really would have meant the world to me to be picked, I had to feel the sting of every other moment where I was not the girly and I was not chosen and I was not asked to stand on the stage. And it really affected me, and I didn't realize how much it did, but it really did. And so even inside of that community, I still would feel the sting when I would meet somebody that I really admired in the community. And at the time, I was extremely naive to the way that celebrity works inside of people and communities. And I really thought if you are famous in your little world, it's probably because you're a good person. I don't feel that way anymore. I definitely do not feel that way anymore. I've heard, never meet your heroes, and I don't agree with that, because there are definitely people in that community that were heroes of mine and I met, and they were the most extraordinary people, and I learned so much from them. But there are these key moments that felt as hurtful as not being picked to share what I learned about branding, about design, about how to get to know yourself so that you can build a personal brand. I didn't get picked for that, but I also had these moments where I met celebrities who were famous in the world of photographers who made me feel so small. And when I say so small, I mean I was sitting with this person and I was asking them questions about their life, genuinely asking them questions about their life. We were at this lunch and they were sitting across the table from me, and the way this person would not even look me in the eye, they would not even answer my question with more than one word. They were looking over me to see if there was someone more important than me in the room. And rejection and grief sat right next to me because I felt so small. And oh my God, I have these like a history. Like I feel like I had the Chronicles of Narnia in these moments with people where I don't understand where we went wrong in terms of how do you look at somebody who's genuinely curious about you and decide they're not worthy of you being a kind human to them. It just doesn't, it like literally does not compute for me at all, especially now being in this position, like having over 1 million followers total. I have met fans out and about, and the way that I like almost start crying, I'm like, I ask them for a picture with them. Like they don't ask you for a picture with me. Like I'm like, can I get a picture with you? Like it means so much to me that you're here and that you've been with me and that you want to sit and hang out with me. Like that's the coolest thing ever. And so to meet somebody who is in that position, and at the time I didn't have a following and I wasn't worthy, and it's just like blows my mind. And I had another interaction in that community with another person who I admired. Oh my God, like this person was like an all-star, and I happened to be sitting in the back seat with them, and I again was just like single mom trying to build my business, like trying to survive, had just been through heartbreaking, excruciating things, and I just like, oh my God, like I'm sitting next to like this hero of mine, and I was asking them questions and they were looking out the window, and I just shrunk. Like I just was like, okay, like, and I remember that feeling, and I just wasn't invited. I just wasn't invited to the table of even being spoken to like I mattered. And I feel like it's ridiculous now to realize that, their fame in their world made them feel better. And I feel like, okay, I have a little bit of fame in my world, and I feel like all I want to do is invite you to sit next to me. Like all I want to do is give you a hug. All I want to do is let you feel seen in my stories, and open myself up to say, I never want you to feel alone. I never want you to feel like anything is better than you because of anything. Like it's just the wildest thing to me. And I sat at this event where I was sitting across from this individual who was not a photographer. He was in a different world. And this world was very prestigious, and I was sitting across from him, and I was talking about, growing a business and what it felt like to grow a business. And I said, I just took an inventory of how I spend my time, and I kind of did like a personal inventory of, here's my day. And I asked him, like, have you ever taken inventory about how you spend your time in building your brand and building your successful business? And this man looked at me, and he looked at me with disgust and was like, I have never done that. That is completely ridiculous, and that's an absolute waste of time. And I was just like, and this wasn't that long ago. And he didn't know who I was, and that's fine. I'm glad that he did not know who I was. But I just, God, another divisible string, moment for me. Another moment where grief and rejection have entered the chat. And, part of my desire, like I said, to build what I'm doing right now is because I felt all these moments where I felt alone. I felt all these moments where I felt so small, and that people made me feel small. And I thought, well, if I'm not going to be invited to your table, I'm going to build my own. And I'm inviting everybody. Like, I'm going to invite everybody to have a place and sit with me and say, you belong. Because I have just had so much pain and so much grief. And like, grief for me, like, it hovers in my body right above my heart. And sometimes it's heavier than other times. Grief is a whole other personality. My God. I explained her and what she looks like a lot in the comedic memoir. The comedic memoir that is turning out to be a survival guide dressed up like stand-up. Because you don't get to be ridiculous and hilarious unless you have been through some things. And grief is definitely a way other energy that shows up in different ways, different outfits, different vibes. But for me, like, having these moments where I was constantly told, you don't have a seat at the table, it just made me feel like my whole life, you're not good enough. You're not good enough. And when that is running in the back of the mind, it is even hard to show up to doing things that are already like so natural, that are so easy to do in our lives. Like, when we have this operating system that's been downloaded by all these moments where people have told us, you're not even worthy for me to look at you when we're having a conversation. It's just really perplexing now, because I think the reason that he felt bigger, or they felt bigger than me, is because they had a bigger following than I did. And God, I'll never get that. I really won't. The fact that you guys are even here hanging out with me is such a gift and a privilege, and I take that with such honor. Like, it's such an honor that you're here. It's not something that I would ever, and I never tell anybody. If they meet me in person, you will not hear me say anything about you guys hanging out with me, because you guys are here and I love that. I'm not exploiting you guys to make me look cool. Like, I think it's cool you're hanging out with me. Please don't leave. Like, that's how I feel. I'm not going to be like, oh my God, you guys, like, here's my account. Never has happened ever. And it won't. But I just think it's really perplexing that people do that. It's just not, I don't get it. I don't understand it. But you know what? We're all on a journey, and that is where someone else is. And I feel like, I'll even look back on myself now and realize that there are things that I probably will not do now, or probably won't do later, that I'm doing right now, just because I haven't gotten that place in my journey of learning. I need to deviate, and that's okay. We're all on a journey, and that's okay. But the messiness of feeling like you don't belong is just a heartbreaking experience. And there are definitely stories I'm not ready to talk about yet, although I am writing about it in the book. And the reason why is because there is such a level of responsibility I feel to protect people that have harmed me. And this is like the wildest thing. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know if it's trauma response. I don't know what it is, but I feel like if somebody has done me wrong, I feel like I need to make sure that they save face. And I get annoyed at myself. Like, I would rather be a little bit, like, not harmful, but, like, a little bit petty. Like, I want to be more petty than what I actually am. I want to show what's petty in Pinkville. Like, a soft petty, a soft version of petty. But I feel like there have been absolute villains in my story that have broken my heart, and I'm just like, well, do I need to really talk about how big their claws were? Like, I'll clip their nails. I'll just clip their nails metaphorically, and I'll describe them as, like, were they claws? Were they, like, Wolverine? Did I really get that hurt? And, like, I have had to fight myself. I've had to fight myself to call it what it is, like, tell the truth in full, not because, like, I'm lying to say that something was more than what it was, but actually, like, tell the full truth of the full story. Like, the villains do not deserve to be guarded in this way. Now, I'm being responsible with it because, you know, I don't want to get sued. But I do feel like if you don't want people to say bad things, quoting Taylor Swift, don't do the bad things. Like, just keep your side of the street clean. That's all you have to do. That's all you have to do. And I feel like there are definitely some people who, if they found out that I was writing a book, they would feel nervous. And I'm just like, you know what would be so cool, though? You know what would be so cool? Here's my petty coming out. What would be so cool is if you just dealt with you. If you just dealt with your own table and who was talking, and so then you wouldn't harm other people. And then they wouldn't have a scar that they have to explain. You know what I'm saying? Like, if everybody just dealt with their own ish, then, oh my God, it'd be so cool. You wouldn't have to cut people open, and then they have to get surgery, and they have to go in the emotional ICU for months. It's really that simple. It's really that simple. And I know it's not, because in my own journey, like, there have definitely been times where I have felt like, I've got this. Like, oh my God, I am so healed. I am absolutely fine. And then years later, I'm like, oh my God, I was so not fine. I didn't even know it. And that is why I absolutely love having a therapist, because she really helps me keep it real. And the cool thing that she does is she listens to the words that I say, and she'll validate my feelings, but she'll go back to the beginning of the sentence, and she'll hover on one little part, and she's like, all right, we're gonna go back to here, and we're gonna bring that into the spotlight, and we're gonna we're just gonna open this up here and look, what's the full story of what's going on here. And it's uncomfy. It is uncomfortable, but I feel like I would rather do the uncomfy work than double it and give the uncomfy to the next person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would rather do that, and I'd rather have conversations where I'm talking about what it's like to feel rejected, and then now coming to a place where I built my own space where I'm inviting other people. And what does that feel like? Because that's also hard, because now there's other things going on there, like being somebody with a following is so cool, and I'm so grateful, and it's amazing, and I will never take it for granted. And in the middle of it, there are times where grief is so loud, or comparison is so loud, or these other things that I'm working through as a human are so loud, and I have to go, how in the world do I show up while making sure that I have personal boundaries that are some stories are just for me, and I'm not going to share it online, and that's safe and healthy and wonderful and good. But also, how do I make sure to not convey what has harmed me? It has harmed me to see people portray versions of themselves that are not the full truth. And it doesn't mean that you have to share everything on the internet, but it does mean that there's something about, letting people see that if you are somebody who has influence, that it's okay if you're not perfect. It's okay if you don't have it all figured out. It's okay if you make mistakes. And I just don't see that. I don't see that anywhere. And I'm just like, where is it? Where are we? Where's the other people that are like, I definitely do not have this all figured out. I definitely am struggling with the younger versions of me. And I think that's why, like, writing the way that I am in this book is so important to me. And I don't know when it's going to come out, but I'm just about ready to submit some chapters to agents, because I do want to find an agent for this one, because I do want it to be able to get to as many people as it needs to. But even that is scary. Oh my God. Like, I wrote a novel before. I actually wrote a novel for my kids when they were younger, and I wanted to write a story that they could see themselves in and feel powerful in their own life. And even as children, feel like that they were powerful in themselves and that they could validate themselves and all these wonderful things. And I wrote this book and sent it to 20 agents, and I got 9 rejection letters, and it never got published. And there was so much shame. Oh my God, I felt absolutely heartbroken and so much shame. And I felt like I'm not a good writer. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do this. Like, nothing that I make matters. And so, like, that's even a seat that I didn't get at the table. And then to show up for myself in this time, and to work through that process of feeling like broken and feeling heartbroken. Like, my heart was literally shattered, because when you're creating something that is from you, like whether it's a video or a skit or whatever it is, to then share it with a stranger and have them go, I don't want this. Oh my God. Oh my God. I cannot even say how devastating that was. And it was also devastating because I had printed that book for some really close friends to read. And they never read it. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of money to do that. And so I spent $100 to get the book bound. And I wrapped it up really nice and like put a little card. And I was just like, thank you for being in my life. You guys have encouraged me a lot. And this really matters to me, that you read this and that, you know, you see that like your influence in my life has allowed me space to write this. And I would not say that now. I wouldn't say their influence in my life allowed me space to write that, because my gifts and skills come from me. And although people along the way have encouraged me, it takes me and my strength to show up for my own skills first. And everything that I have, my comedy, my heart, my humor, everything is for me first. And then I get to give it away from a place of overflowing, because you cannot give from an empty well, an empty cup. Okay, take that with you. So the fact that I gave it to them and they didn't read it, devastating. And I, again, wasn't even invited to the table of feeling seen and feeling loved in a friendship where somebody says, like, this is really vulnerable for me to share this with you. This is so important to me. This is so precious to me. And to have somebody take something that was so precious and literally not care, and I'm sure it ended up in the garbage, was so heartbreaking. And that was right after. So I wrote this novel. I started sending it to agents. I went to a friend's house and met this man that I had never met before in my life, but he was very famous in his world. And I had first met him. This is the first conversation I ever had with him. And he asked me if I had any exciting projects that I was working on. This moment right here taught me a lot, but changed my life, because he asked me if I had any exciting projects I was working on, and I was so excited and so naive to share with him this precious thing that I had just completed, which was this book that I wrote for my children. And he said to me, after never reading anything I ever wrote, not knowing me from anything, not knowing that I had been a professional ghostwriter, I'd written for people's websites as a branding expert, that I had been writing since I was 9 years old. I started my first novel when I was 9 years old. This man looked at me and said, you don't know how to write a good book. And there's a way to write a good book, and you don't know what it is. And I had never felt so absolutely deflated. And I learned a really big lesson that day, and that is, the treasure that you're working on is not meant for everybody at the beginning stages. What that thing that is so like precious to you, that means so much to you, and that you're putting your heart and soul into it, is not meant to be shared at the beginning or even like middle. Because unless you are super confident and strong in the fact that it will be rejection showing up in faces you never thought, you might stop the mission. And so when he said that to me, and this was somebody who was like really amazing in his world, I took that and wore that And I took that forward with me, and I stopped writing for a whole year because one stranger said I wasn't worthy. And that is because rejection and grief were already sitting at the front of my table. They were already there. They were already there. And every time that I didn't get the agent and my friends didn't read the book and the stranger said I wasn't worthy to succeed, they use that as confirmation bias for a belief that I already had, which was, you're not worthy to sit at the table. You're not worthy to be great. You're not worthy to do something that's important to you. You're not worthy to matter, and you're not worthy to use your skills and gifts to give to other people. And you're not even worthy to stand on the stage to talk about it. And fighting the internal voices like that, it is really difficult. And at the time, I just didn't have the strength. I hadn't been through this really tough season that I call the rain season. The rain season in my life changed everything, and I talk about that more in the book, but I hadn't been through what I needed to get the emotional capacity to even do what I'm doing now, which is if somebody came to me and said, you're not funny, I will make that into a joke now, because I don't need somebody to say that I'm funny to know that I am. Like, we know that. And I don't need somebody to tell me you're a good writer to know that I am. I know that I am. And I know that that is a skill that I have, and storytelling is a skill that I have, and I don't care if a stranger doesn't agree or not. I'm going to keep, doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to keep making my seat at the table. But that one moment standing in the lobby of my friend's house and meeting that individual, I don't think he'll ever know exactly how horrible that was for me. And I think that's why, I just take it so preciously that the words that we say to other people, we don't know what they're going through. We have no idea what they're going through. And we don't know the battles that they fought to get to that moment. And I think what I was expecting was a kind person to go, oh my God, girl, that is amazing. Get it. I know how hard it is to write books, because spoiler alert, he wrote a book. I think it was a PDF, but you know what? Go you. Hope it did well. But I was expecting in that moment to have the celebration from another person that understands the battles you have to fight to show up for yourself, and the battles you have to fight to show up in places that you're still learning to grow that strength. You're still learning to grow that confidence. And what I got instead was his voice at the table. And if I were going to name it, which I don't know, because I've never talked to this man again since, but if I were going to name that voice at the table, what I would call it now, looking at it now, and I don't think he's a bad person. I don't wish any hate on him. I hope his books are a success. He has a family. I love that. You go be great. But for me and my story, if someone's going to step into it, I'm going to call it what it is. And I'm going to say that when he saw me, he felt small just from me standing there. And I really believe that if you have to stand on someone else to make yourself feel big, that's a you thing. That has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with anything I'm bringing into the conversation. He literally did not know me for anything. So the fact that I was standing there and decided to share with him something that was super important to me, and just say yeah, I wrote a book for my kids. I'm really proud of it. And he just felt insecure in that moment, or he felt like he needed to dull me to make himself feel better. Man, that just sounds like some personal work that he had to get done, but I took it as I deserve that, and I deserve whatever insecurity that he's projecting onto me. It's my fault. And that's another thing that I'm learning more about, is these places where these voices in people's world project onto other people around them. And so all of a sudden it's a holograph that's over other people, and it really had nothing to do with them. It had everything to do with him. And for me, my insecurity of not feeling like I didn't have a seat at the table, not feeling worthy, feeling like my book was thrown in the garbage, not coming to the stage, that's my own insecurity. The people hosting the conferences, they didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't wrong of them not to choose me. The people that they chose felt right to them, and they were doing that for their business. But me and my own insecurity created this idea that I'm not worthy and I don't belong at the table. And where I met people along the way that definitely said to me in words and in actions, you don't belong here, I just decided to do the work on myself to stop trying to beg people to allow me to belong. And that's the work that I've done that allowed me to get here. The work that I've done is I'm not going to beg someone to let me sit at their table. I'm going to make my own table and I'm going to sit there, and this is what it's going to look like, and this is what it's going to feel like, and this is how it's going to be. And that is very hard work, because you have to deal with your past versions of yourself, your past insecurities, anxieties, the past voices, the past beliefs, the past confirmation bias of all these moments where you felt like you were rejected and you didn't belong, and that you don't belong at the table. You have to deal with all that to get to a point where you finally can say, I'm no longer going to let rejection and grief have a voice at my table. And when they are speaking, I'm going to recognize it so that I can tell them to hush. All right, we're going to put us like, we are going to let them sit quietly and listen to the real voice of the table. And that is not a destination. And like, that's the other thing that I feel like gets misses. And even like these podcasts where we're talking about like personal growth and personal development and all these things, like we miss the part of the story where none of this is arrival. Like this is just part of the journey. The part of the journey will always be rejection. For me, rejection and grief are always going to have a voice, and accepting that is going to happen. So next time that it happens, I'm not like, oh my God, what? I thought healing was a straight line, and like that is what I believed for so long. I just thought if I just do enough therapy, if I just, step into whatever skill or amazing thing I'm doing, if I just grow following, if I just do this, if I just do that, we're going to be good. We are good. Like I'm leading this crew. I'm the CEO. But that is not how it works. How it works is these voices are going to always try to be a part of the conversation, and acknowledging them doesn't mean that you're allowing them to have a voice. I think it's actually the opposite. And I feel like people don't want to talk about it because it's like, oh my God, these are bad things. Like, you feel rejected? Like, that's so bad. Or like, you feel jealous? Ew, like, what's wrong with you? And the reality is, yeah, you're going to feel these things. So you can either choose to stuff them and ignore them, and they will come out. And they will bust out of the closet so fast when you are not ready. You're not ready. They will bust out of the closet when a really sweet person is standing in front of you and she's so excited to share with you that she just wrote a book, her first book, and she's so excited. All of a sudden, guess what comes to the front of the room? All of your unhealed moments where you felt not worthy, so you have to make somebody else feel small so that you feel worthy again. These are the kind of conversations we need to be having, okay? Because let's talk about it. We can be funny, but we're also going to be fierce. Because it is wild how often this is happening for all of us all the time. And instead of letting our feelings teach us, we're trying to ignore them and pretend we don't have these things. No, we're just gonna post like our cute little like walls and our adorable little setups here, and we're just like, oh my God, like I have influence. And like, no, let's talk about the real stuff, because this is the kind of thing that harms the people around us we don't even want to. I don't believe that guy who shut me down wanted to harm me. I do not believe that he was like, God, I hope I can get this girl to stop writing and make her feel really insecure. No, I bet he didn't even know. And he just left and went on with his life. And I stopped writing. Literally stopped writing. And I didn't write a lot for the last 5 years too, because I had felt so much rejection and so much pain from feeling like I failed in these areas that were really important to me, and I let that pain drive me forward instead of allowing that pain to teach me that I had some hurt that I needed to resolve in myself before I could move forward in a way that felt authentic to me. Because I think also in these experiences, like, we don't want to create from a place of villainous vengeance. We'll just have to make influencer apology videos later. I'm trying to avoid those, okay? Like, the way that I never want to show up on camera, and if that ever happens, I promise you it will be like the most devastating thing for me. Like, I'm trying to just work on my own stuff so I can be the most problematic person, and I am not perfect, but I am trying so hard to make sure that I am dealing with all my stuff, because the way I never want to show up here, unless I'm making fun of it, I never want to show up here with an apology video and whatever it is. Like, Just am not. That's not on my checkoff list. But I feel like this is the kind of stuff that we have to deal with, and acknowledging our feelings, acknowledging that, man, it really sucks to feel like you weren't chosen. And there were some really big moments in my life that I have felt that way, and it informed how I move forward. It informed me even showing up for myself and my pain. Instead of allowing it to teach me something, I just allowed it to derail me completely, because it feels really good not feeling the pain, and then you just don't have to feel it, and then you can just move on, right? It's fine. We don't need to address that. And I want to do that so badly sometimes. I really do. I really want to do that so badly most of the time. I definitely want to do that. I feel things so deeply. It's so annoying. Like, I'm just like, it is enough. Like, it's so much. It's so dramatic. Why? Like, why are we doing this again? Like, I'm just like, I want to reprogram my brain. Like, I don't want to feel things so deeply. I heard somebody on a podcast talking about something that did not bother her at all. Completely did not bother her. And in my life, it super bothers me. Like, it's like one of the big things that have bothered me a lot. And she's just like, oh my God, yeah, like, this doesn't bother me. Like, I'm fine with this. And I'm just like, I am not fine with this. I want to be fine with it, but I'm not fine with it. And I can't fix it. I can't fix my brain. So I'm trying. We're doing hot girl walks now. We're doing lots of deep breathing. We're doing lots of writing and processing, and lots of bleeding in the notes app. That's what we're doing right now. We are journaling, diarying. We're doing Dear Diary again. We're bringing that back. We're doing it in the notes app, and we are getting it all out and letting it be what it is. And we are definitely letting our feelings feel. We're going to feel them. We're going to let them feel. And then we're going to take deep breaths, and we're going to show up again, and we're just going to keep going. And if you have ever felt like that you're not invited, or that you didn't get a seat at the table, you are not alone. I still feel like that all the time. I still have not been asked to speak at the things. And I'm still going to show up and keep on going. And even if I don't get an agent for this book, I'm going to publish it anyway, because I'm really proud of it, and I really want to share it with you, and I want you to get all the juicy, delicious tea that I know you want it. It's in there. I want you to feel like parts of your story, maybe you can see it in mine, and although I don't know the fullness of your story, I know that we all share the experiences of these feelings, and we have more in common than what we think. It's just that a lot of people aren't willing to talk about it. So we're talking about it here. So thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the Funny Story podcast. Do we call it that? I don't even know. I feel like this whole podcast is just the same thing as my book, which is just a survival guide dressed up like stand-up. Like, we're gonna laugh about it. We are going to be snarky sometimes, be petty sometimes, but we're gonna do it with class, okay? We're not gonna name names, although we really want to. We really want to. They're there. I'm gonna make up names. I'm gonna protect people's villainous privacy. There will be names, but they won't be the real names. And we're gonna call it like it is. We're gonna tell the truth, and then we're gonna make fun of it. Okay, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys so much. Thank you. Okay, I love you. Bye.